Hey, welcome in everybody to the Bitcoin Crypto Happy Hour. Cheers! I'm having an Onda, Onda. It's a tequila seltzer. I have a flavor of lime, so they're pretty good. Check them out. Here, check this guy out if you get a chance. They're pretty tasty. They have a lot of different flavors. No, I'm not an affiliate. I'm not associated with them. But if I have something that's good, I'm going to share it with you. So this is lime. I think the pack came with blood orange. Much like the market, bloody. Blood orange, watermelon, and then I have lime. So very tasty. Let me know what you guys are having for happy hour this evening. Make sure to hit the thumbs up button, drop me a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Click the little bell icon for notifications. Coming at you a little earlier today, so I hope everyone's having a good week. I'm having a pretty busy week. I've kind of been indicating that work is picking up, so I've been pretty busy today. I was thinking to myself, I don't know, people that do regular YouTube videos and live streams, I mean, if these individuals have full-time jobs and they have a family, like they have kids and, a wife and whatnot, or in the case of a wife who has a husband, or in the case of a husband who has a husband, whatever the case is, you have a partner, right? I don't know how you keep up with all this stuff, because I'm finding, like my mind, it's hard to give 100% focus to putting out the content when there's a lot of other stuff going on. So a lot of credit to people who churn out the content amidst having the everyday normal life stuff, right? So it takes a lot of work. So but for this week, I will be traveling, and I will be in a different location for roughly like a week and a half. So I've already been putting thought. I wrote some stuff down. I need to test out the laptop and make sure before I go to bed this evening and make sure that everything's there that needs to be there. But I've already put some thought into some videos that I want to put out next week. So I will still be here next week. I should be here for the Bitcoin crypto weekly close. So I should be live streaming for that, and I have a couple video ideas. We'll see what we get out. Next week is Thanksgiving, obviously, so I'm not sure what everyone's plans are, but I'll touch base with you that later in the week, see what everybody's up to. Yeah, pretty busy week here, just with everything going on, and then when you're traveling, depending how long you're going to be away, you have to kind of get packed up and situate all that stuff, and then I just have to make sure I have everything for the YouTube channel too. So pretty busy, but let's get into things. So as you could see by the thumbnail that I had tweeted out on Twitter, because that's what we do on Twitter, we tweet. The title of the thumbnail is FTX and SBF and Sanity, CBDC Sanity, and Bitcoin survival. Okay, so let's kind of delve into things. So there has been so much that has come out about FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried, SBF, in terms of the negligent and gross mismanagement of customers' assets, and that's being kind. I don't know how else to say it, but it's a very sickening thing to see someone who is the head of an exchange blatantly lie and grossly misuse customers' assets. Like, I want you to think about this. So this guy came out and said point blank in the past that customers' assets were not being invested, right? He wasn't literally taking assets and investing them. And what kind of came out was he said basically in a Twitter conversation he was having with someone that that technically was correct. He wasn't doing that. He was handing off the funds to Alameda Research to invest, and clearly they lost all the funds, right? So he's playing sort of a game with words there, which, I mean, it's gross. Like, it's disgusting to see someone be in a position of power in that way and misuse customers' funds and outright lie about it. And the other thing he said was that as FTX was filing for bankruptcy, he also indicated that this would not impact FTX US, right? He was talking about FTX International. Well, come to find out, that was a lie. FTX US had to file for bankruptcy as well. So clearly at this point, the thing is, and I've kind of touched on it with Hugo here, which we'll get into on a sidebar, kind of get into something funny that I found and something he tweeted out. But on a much grander scale, when we look at FTX, the thing I wanted to talk about real quick is trust, right? Trust is one of those things, if you think about personal relationships that you have with people, if someone has ever lied to you, if you were ever in the unfortunate situation where a spouse cheated on you, or you had a friend who really stabbed you in the back and lied to you, okay? These are serious things, very serious things. And once that in any relationship, you build trust, right? You build trust with someone. And when that trust is broken, depending upon the severity of that trust, what happened for that trust to be broken, it is extremely hard to repair that. Extremely hard to repair that. So for me, based on all of the lies that have been coming out of his mouth, I wouldn't trust a single thing that he says. I would not trust a single thing. Unless if you've been living under a rock, you know a lot of the other insane things that have been stated. And all of the truth will come out. There's a lot of hearsay on certain things and rumors about things, but it sounds like it's possible that client funds may have been used to purchase multi-million-dollar homes. Client funds were definitely given to Alameda Research, no doubt about it, and they lost all those funds, so they must be the worst traders in history to lose billions and billions of dollars. And it's believed that at least the auditors have to go through and take a look at their balance sheet, income statements and all that stuff, but it sounds like the loss is at least $8 billion. Think about that. And the question I would pose to you guys, and I'd be curious to hear anyone's comments if you want to drop a comment here, is how much of this, because what often happens in a situation like this is it gives regulators and it gives the public eye, it gives people reading news headlines, right, that don't know anything, quite frankly, about cryptocurrency or about Bitcoin. This gives people ammunition to just paint a broad picture of the entire space and just hammer home on the industry and put it in a negative light. Might I remind everyone what happened in 2008, right? There were a couple bad players in this space that essentially it was over-leveraging in a different way in the housing market, and the whole thing collapsed, and it was a house of cards. How is that any different than this situation? So that really begs the question, is this really, with what's been going on, is this more about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin? Or is this less to do with that and more about greed, avarice? And once people dip their hands into something, it's never enough. Like, it's never enough. People want more and more and more, and things snowball out of control. And that's what I would argue it is. This has nothing to do with cryptocurrency or Bitcoin outside of the fact that there's been a lack of regulation that many in the space have been striving to get in the United States. And the United States has been dragging their feet. So I said in the prior live stream, much of what's been going on with the current state of affairs and the lack of regulatory oversight in terms of what was going on with FTX, I mean, the SEC and the government can only in part blame itself. So you have an industry that is lacking some common sense regulation that would make sense, and then you have something like this happen, right? This could have been any financial instrument outside of crypto. If there's a lack of regulation, within an industry, what do you think people are going to do? They're going to try to game the system. J-Ro, good question. No, I did not have any funds in FTX, fortunately. In fact, hey, Thanks, by the way, for joining the live stream. Appreciate the thumbs up, buddy. But what I would say, where was I going with that? Now I lost my train of thought. Man, this has happened a couple live streams in a row. Apparently my brain is just... No, what I would say is that... what was I going to say about that? No, thankfully... Oh, I know what I was going to say. This is what happens when you get older in life, you know? No, fortunately, I did not have any funds in FTX. But what I would say is FTX was one of those things that I never followed it closely. To me, it sort of just came out of nowhere. I would see tweets on it every now and then, news articles. In fact, if you check my profile, if you go back in my tweet history, you'll see when the Phillies were in the World Series, or excuse me, when they were in the playoffs, when they were playing the Braves in the playoffs in the NLDS, National League Divisional Series, I had tweeted out that it was really cool to see the umpires wearing FTX. And I thought that was so cool because I was aware of FTX and they were an exchange, but I didn't really know who SBF was. Again, it kind of came out of nowhere. I saw people tweet on it. I saw some prominent people, even some people who I really respect, tweet some positive things about it. And again, it's no fault of theirs. You can't anticipate something like this. So, really good question. I appreciate the interaction here, J-Ro. J-Ro, you going to hit that thumbs up button, brother? You going to hit that thumbs up button? Come on. Get at least one more like. Do I think that the implosion may have been intentional? This is an interesting question and something that I and many in the space, thank you, brother. I and many in the space have been talking about, right? Because, and again, it's not about being a conspiracy theorist, okay? When you look at some of the ties that FTX and Alameda Research had to the SEC and the Democratic Party, it's interesting that Sam Bankman-Fried donated all this money to Democratic officials, and in a time like this, you don't see anyone in government willing to give up those funds, right, to help people out. It's really interesting. But there's no question, and this is going to get into the second piece, and I'm glad you asked the question of CBDC Sanity. There's no question that there are a lot of ties between Alameda Research, FTX, SBF, and the SEC and the Democratic Party. There's no question. And the reality is, if there were ties and some of this stuff was intentional, like let's just say, let me give you a hypothetical. Let's just say that hypothetically, Sam was... Because I know people like this. Tell me if you don't know people like this. I know people that are very intellectually gifted. They're brainiacs. Their intelligence, they have intellectual gifts that are far beyond mine and many I know. But their common sense and reasoning on certain things, they're so abstract. They're so out in fucking left field that they would miss if a goddamn dog ran right in front of them. Like, some of their common sense is just non-existent. Like, I've always considered myself someone who's smart. I work hard. I'm intelligent. I have to be to do what I do. But I have common sense, I'm just not... There are a lot of people a lot more gifted than me, okay? And so if we look at it through that lens and say, and you know people like this, you know what I'm talking about, most of you. I think it's a possibility that this guy is a brainiac and really gifted, but maybe lacks a lot of fucking common sense. And if, what's the girl's name from Alameda Research? I forget her name. She looked like, I listened to her interviews. It sounded ridiculous. I forget her name. It was, I don't know, let's call her Chloe. I have no idea. I forget the girl from Alameda Research. Who the hell was? Now, this is going to bother me. I need to know who this is. Alameda Research. Carolyn, okay? Let me look her up here. Yeah. Carolyn Ellison. That's right. Carolyn Ellison. So, thank you, J-Ro. You got me here just in time there. So Carolyn has ties to the SEC, and what's interesting, what wouldn't surprise me is if in some way, again, some of this is being a conspiracy theorist, but some of this is conspiracy can be very warranted, and oftentimes people will look at a conspiracy theory and dismiss it right away, but there's a reason why it exists, right? There might be some level of credence to it. But what wouldn't surprise me is if Sam, as intelligent as he was a fucking goof, lacked common sense, had this sort of love affair, whatever going on with Carolyn Ellis, and Carolyn has ties to the SEC, and in some way she's being spoon-fed things, and she intentionally does some things to disrupt the industry. That would not surprise me. But the reality is, if that is true, I don't think that we will ever know about it, right? When you think about the biggest conspiracies that ever exist, because keep in mind, what happened with FTX makes Celsius pale in comparison, okay? So, and this is the amount of money that's been lost here and the amount of people impacted. When you really think about it, it is catastrophic, okay? So when you think about large-scale events that occur in history where there is a conspiracy, I mean, how often, think of some in your head, right? Think of I'm just thinking of JFK was the first thing that I thought off the top of my head because, now I know that's on a much grander scale, but still, that's something that's been debated for a long time. Nobody knows the answer, right, to who actually killed JFK. Was it an inside job or not, right? I think part of me bringing that up was I was actually listening to something recently on this. But these big conspiracies, right, nobody ever really finds out the end game here in terms of who was responsible. So do I think that it's possible it was an inside job and it was intentional to bring regulation? Yeah, I think that's entirely possible. I do, right? And this is coming from somebody I consider myself very level-headed and very sensical. And yeah, I think it's a real possibility. I mean, I would consider that a real possibility given some of the ties, but I don't think we're ever going to find out. I don't, unfortunately. Now, how this ties in to what J-Ro is saying here, whether he meant it or not, let's talk about the CBDC Sanity. Guys, I've hit on CBDCs plenty of times here before, but as you can see here, interestingly enough, let's go to Cointelegraph, okay? You can see here that the New York Fed is launching a 12-week CBDC pilot program with major banks, okay, including MasterCard and Wells Fargo. I'm sure that JP Morgan's in here. I'm not going to read off. Okay, yep. Let's see. BNY Mellon, Citi, HS, MasterCard, PNC, TD. Yeah, all right. So there's all these major banks participating in this 12-week pilot program. Interestingly enough, this article came out very shortly after this news came out very shortly after all of the shit hit the fan with FTX, right? So it's interesting the way certain news events are sort of timed, right? Is it timing, or is it just coincidental, or is there something more behind it based on what J-Ro is saying? You know what, J-Ro, brother, you know what your name sounds like when I say J-Ro? It sounds like Jimmy Rollins, J-Ro. No, wait, what do we call him? Oh, God, now I'm confused. J-Ro. No, J-Ro, like Jimmy Rollins, J-Ro. That's what I'm thinking when I say your name, J-Ro. I'm thinking Jimmy Rollins right now, if you're familiar with the former shortstop of the Philadelphia Phillies. Anyway, yeah, guys, and I've been very avid in terms of, my view on central bank digital currencies. Guys, for those new tuning in, appreciate the thumbs up and dropping a comment. Any thoughts that you have on what I'm sharing here? I've been very avid in terms of my my ultimate fear of CBDCs. And I think this is another situation where, much like everyone is sleeping on the technologies that are existent in digital assets or cryptocurrency, and people just want to read the headlines, okay, and formulate an opinion based on mainstream media headlines, I'm going to digress here for a second before we get to CBDCs, but that reminded me of something. The other thing that really annoys me about this whole FTX thing is there's a news article published by the New York Times basically painting Sam SBF as a sort of a victim in some sort of way. He has communicated nothing indicating any accountability. And then when I was reading this, it sort of seems indicative of the environment that we're currently growing up in. Increasingly, and I've done podcasts on this, okay? Increasingly, we seem to be growing up in a generation where there is a lack of accountability. He was the leader of a major exchange that is now bankrupt and lost at least $8 billion. There's no accountability, no messaging coming from him accepting accountability for that. More so him being painted as a victim. And it's just disgusting to me. It's absolutely disgusting. But anyway, very intelligent people, and most people are missing why you should be scared. And this isn't to invoke fear. I'm just illustrating reality. Why you should be scared about a CBDC. Okay, and I'll have to bring up a quote next time. Maybe it'll be, and actually a shout out to my father, who I don't think really watches these videos much anymore. I think he was in the beginning, but I think he's fallen off. But a shout out to my father. It is actually his birthday today, November 17th. He's the young age of something. He is the man who inspired me to lift weights and become the crypto bull god. Shout out to my father. But maybe when I have him on a live stream, because I am planning on doing that. I've spoken about that for months now, and it hasn't happened. But he can speak more to this. But it's interesting, when this country was originally founded, and we were drawing up Bill of Rights, Constitution, all that fun stuff. Really, the aim for the foundation of the United States of America was limited government. Really, government is there to serve the people. And I don't want to get real political. That's not where I'm going right now. But the government is there to serve the people. And but it's not intended to have its hands over everything, just to be this huge thing that just has its hands in everything, right? Well, the thing that is nerve-wracking about a CBDC or central bank digital currency is you have to ask yourself, what is it? Like, what is actually a CBDC? And I'll paint it to you in layman's terms. This is very simple. It's a digital representation of a dollar. Well, come on, CBG, we already have a digital representation of a dollar. So what are you talking about? Everything's digital. You are correct. Everything is digitized. I've already hit on this in the past, but the bank saying, if my bank balance is $500 in my checking account, they're not actually holding $500. It's a digital representation of it. They're lending out most of that to other institutions and people that don't actually hold it, right? So credit is created in the system. Dollars or basically the fiat system is the supply increases through the creation of credit and digital dollars. That's really the magic that takes place, okay? So you might ask me, well, what's the difference between that and a CBDC? Well, I want you to think about this. If we move away from a paper dollar, like if we literally, I don't have a dollar on me, but if we literally just imagine for a moment, a world where there are no coins, physical coins or physical dollars. Because again, the fiat dollar was supposed to be a certificate for gold. That's no longer the case. But imagine there's no paper dollars and no coins, okay? The government would love that. Why would they love that? Because with things like money laundering, currency used for illicit transactions, it's actually really hard to track that through those means, through paper dollars and coins, right? So if the government's only means for transactions within the United States is digital, they can track everything. They can track everything that you do. Okay, so why would that be scary? Let's say that you say to me, like Mini Shift said to me, well, that doesn't make me scary or nervous because I'm a good citizen and I have nothing to worry about. Mini Shift, you're missing the point. Minishift, and anyone who thinks this isn't a fringe upon your liberties and freedom, what you will now have is a digital wallet, and the government at will can put digital dollars in your digital wallet and remove digital dollars out of your wallet and restrict the amount of digital dollars that you're spending. What if the government decided that global warming is a huge threat, and as a result, every single family of 4 can only spend X amount on carbon-based products? Like, what if they decided that you could only buy so many pounds of meat or whatever the case is, right? So if you went to the grocery store and you went over that allotted amount, what if when you went to pay for it, something came up at the cash register that said you have allotted your monthly amount or weekly amount? What then? How are you going to pay for it? Well, let me just pull out a $20 bill. Oh, they don't exist anymore. In fact, you might have a $20 bill, but they're illegal to use. You can't actually pay for it. You think that's crazy? You don't think this is where this is going? Okay? This is where this is going. That's why it's so scary. What if the government made a mistake on your tax return or something in that realm? They made a mistake on your tax return and they felt that you owed more in taxes. Okay, everything's digital now, so you paid $3,000 in taxes, but their records say you owe $5,000. Fuck, they have direct access to your digital wallet. All of a sudden, you wake up the next morning and your account balance is overdrawn because they took $2,000 out. Oh, whoops, sorry, we didn't give you warning, but that's money we owed. So, basically go fuck yourself, figure out a solution. You owed us this money. Now you have a negative account balance. Like, these are the things that are really nerve-wracking about a CBDC system. Essentially what it's doing is it's moving towards socialism. I mean, China is ahead of us in that, if you've been paying attention, and I hope a few of you at least have been, China is ahead of us, but we are moving in the direction of China. And I do know at least, I don't know who it was, there was a government official that applauded China for their socialist system of moving towards this sort of environment. And I don't know who it was. I don't know if it was Nancy Pelosi or who it was. But yeah, it's scary shit. So then let's talk about Bitcoin survival. The crazy thing is, and I'm kind of formulating a separate video I want to do on this, but the crazy thing is that every single time we run into major news events, you have the Mt. Gox fiasco, you have the zombie apocalypse taking over in March of 2020. You had the Bitcoin bubble burst in 2018 and fall from 20 to 3,000. We have had so many people, and Peter Schiff is at the top of the list, call for the death of Bitcoin and crypto. And if you're new here, if you're new in the space, when you see those sorts of headlines and this saying, like, for example, this FTX fiasco, as difficult as it is in the short term, long term, this shit's going to get weeded out. Everything's fine. But if you're looking at this sort of news event with FTX and any part of you is legitimately nervous and scared for the long term for crypto, and you don't think that these projects are going to survive and we're not going to go through another massive wave of appreciation, then you have not been here long. Like, you are a noob, okay? There is nothing in the charts right now, nothing in the charts that doesn't say that we're going to see mass expansion in the price. The charts haven't fallen apart, okay? The charts have not fallen apart. We have to be able to, the more seasoned you get as an investor, and I've hit on this many times, it would benefit you tremendously to understand fundamentals and technicals. I had a really good, I had a little bit of dialogue with someone on some Twitter, YouTube comments recently, and she said that she appreciated, based on her interests in life, she appreciated that to be able to look at the news events, as much as she could appreciate data and charts, okay, she wanted to be able to take some news events and be able to craft a story behind what was going on. And I don't disagree that that's very interesting, and I think that especially if what's going on in the economy interests you, that you shouldn't delve into it and understand it. I think that can only benefit you. But what you have to understand is it's very human. It's just like us to want to have to look at this, okay, and we have to come up with a story for it. But the reality is the reason that all of this price data exists, this is all of the human emotion that exists within buying and selling is captured in this chart, okay? All the buy-sell activity. What happens is over time, it creates a historical roadmap and blueprint for what we can anticipate moving forward. Does that make sense? So as much as the news narratives are interesting, all of the data here, we can use it. And as a mathematician, I just so appreciate this. We can use this absent of news to create a picture of probabilities, okay? As much as people who are not mathematically inclined look at what I do as an occupation and don't have a fucking clue what it is I do, and they looked at the textbooks that I studied to become credentialed as an actuary, they look at the mathematics and they're like, that's fucking gibberish, I don't understand it. Like, I've had these conversations with people, I know what this is like. It's the same thing with charts. People that are not mathematically inclined and don't appreciate mathematics, or it doesn't come natural to them and they just don't spend time with it, I think that those types of people that are maybe perhaps more right-sided brained than left-sided brained, this stuff comes it's a little bit more challenging to understand what it is that I'm saying. But what I'm attempting to illustrate to you and communicate to you is everything is built into this chart. There's nothing in the chart that is overly alarming. There's just nothing. Before we get into some of the charts here, and yes, Bitcoin's going to survive, and there's nothing that I'm nervous about or scared about for the long term. There's nothing in the chart that has, there's nothing in the chart at the moment, although like I said in my last video, there is reason to be nervous as a bull, that 2023 won't play out like I have been anticipating, but there's nothing in the chart yet that has invalidated that. Everything in the chart still is pointing to a mass appreciation in 2023. I'm still on that side of the fence. Nothing has changed for me, okay? But before we get into the charts real quick, I did want to point this out for all the XRP fans, okay? And the fans that, fans of XRP and waiting for that flare airdrop. I saw him tweet out something recently. Hugo tweet out something recently. It was down here. And he does this when he tweets something out. So Hugo, for those unfamiliar, you should know, he's the co-founder and CEO of Flare Networks, right? And XRP holders, every time I come on this live stream, I got an itchy nose. XRP holders have been waiting for this Flare airdrop forever. I mean, this thing was promised literally years ago. I'm not exaggerating. This is promised back in 2021. And we're sitting here being told it's 2023, right? Well, what I would tell Hugo is, if you're going to hashtag connect everything in all your little tweets here, you actually have to release something to connect everything. Like, you actually have to have something that people can use. We've been talking about this fucking airdrop forever, and it has never happened. I created a video, and it is so frustrating. I created a video where it finally seemed like we were going to get this airdrop in by early November, and it never happened. So now I have to create another video and go back and talk about this shit again in January. So in order to connect everything, Hugo, in order for Flare Networks to connect everything, we actually need the pieces to connect. Like, we need the tokens. Where the fuck are the tokens? Anyway. Fucking joke. That guy's a fucking joke. Let's see, missing some comments here. Feliz cumpleaños, Father Bull. Yes, feliz cumpleaños indeed. Crypto Bull God's father. Founding fathers unironically wanted decentralization. It's really interesting, right? It's interesting that people forget history, and the more we go on, the people who are put in power through greed and avarice have their own agenda, and they even go against the very grain of what this country was founded on, right? It's kind of sickening, right? Songbird, yeah. Well, that was a shit show too. This whole thing's been a shit show. I'm not salty at all, not one bit. You know, one thing I wanted to point out to you guys, I don't know if I hit on this on the 16-day countdown video. I wanted to give a little bit of an update. I think we're sitting on like 13 days or 14 days at this point. I think like 13 days. I wanted to give a little bit of an update because I don't think I hit on this. But back here in 2015, was this? Yeah, 15. This right here, guys, this was a double bottom. And this is what I'm currently looking at. Like this price here, I want to explain to you clearly what a double bottom is, okay? And I'm not going to look up a textbook definition of it, and I'm sure if you looked up a textbook definition, you could get more finite than this, what the percentages are. But essentially what happens is, for instance, we have a bottom here, right? You think the market has bottomed out, but then we get another wick that comes down. It does not have to go exactly as low as this. You can see the low here was 166, and here we went down to 162. But the point is, this low that's created here is relatively close to this low here. This is then a double bottom, right? And you tend to see these big wicks, right? Because what are these massive wicks? Well, there are two things to the downside. One, it's volatility, but two, it's a representation of seller exhaustion, right? So the price comes all the way down here, and then it gets bought back up. These prices are very close in value, and because they're very close in value, this is a double bottom, right? This is double bottom, and then price moved up. This is the similar formation, which I'm sort of eyeing up right now and wondering that we're not going to do the same sort of thing, right? So again, just looking at current prices, it looks like we have to move up about 16.4%. We'll just call it 16. We'll round actually up and be conservative. We have to move up from current price levels 17% over the course of the next 13 days. Okay, to get up to this 19,400 that I spoke to close at. Now, if we close there, okay, a couple things I would say if we get a wick up here. First off, again, seller exhaustion, and we're getting above a line of support, which would be very bullish. Could you term this a double bottom? Well, I think technically speaking, I'd have to look up a textbook definition. This really isn't a double bottom because the low here is 17,600. The low here right now is 15,600, 15,005, 15,006. All right. So they aren't really close in value. They're close, but not really close in value. If you actually look at a percentage, I want to say 15,600 as compared to 17,006. That's about 10%. We're just going to call it 10% different. Okay, a little more than 10%, but a 10% difference in price. Okay, but again, it would be a very positive sign if we can move up 16 to 17% here and close around 19,400. So we still have a lot of work by the bulls. Is it reasonable to assume that Bitcoin could have a move up of 17% over the course of the next 13 days? Yeah, we've seen Bitcoin do moves a lot larger than that. But I will point you to the attention of this 12-hour chart. And I do not like to see this because this is a technical pattern that is no bueno, okay? I would be doing you a disservice and myself a disservice if I didn't point out the bearish views, right? I'm always going to keep things 100% with you guys. This right now is a bear pennant, okay? What do I mean by that? We have a pennant down, and then we have this pennant, it's a pennant, okay? So this is a bearish formation, and the way that you would draw this, okay, is if it breaks out to the downside, you take the measured move of the pennant right about from here down to here, and then you say, let's say we break down tomorrow, okay? You take the measured move down, and it takes us down to like 12,500, right? So this is a valid bearish formation. Okay. Now, what would invalidate that? We need to start seeing a push to the upside, right? We need to see a push to the upside. So what would I say regarding probabilities, right? Because I'm a man of math and a man of probabilities. Well, what I would say, giving this an honest look, is that this right now is a valid bear pennant formation, and the odds are in a break to the downside. Okay, not good for bulls, not good for price action. But I've constantly been hitting on this Bitcoin dominance. I've constantly been hitting on this DXY and what this means. And I've holistically been looking at the market as a whole. And I still feel convinced that we are going to see a move to the upside. That is the way I am still leaning until proven otherwise, okay? I still believe that we are going to get a close around 19,400 for the month. This is going to be very telling and very interesting to look at month end. Again, the whole point behind that video that I released is that based on how the month closes out, it doesn't definitively define anything. But what it does do is it does increase the likelihood behind further price movement that we can expect over the coming several months. That's what it does do, okay? It increases the probability we can gain a little bit more confidence in terms of, are we going to see stagnation and prices down here for many more months, or are we going to start to see further upside in the coming months here? And you know which way I am leaning. So Bitcoin on the monthly could be a falling wedge. Let's take a look at, I think I already looked at that actually. I did look at that. Good point. If I didn't bring that up before, I apologize if I didn't bring that up, but pretty sure I looked at this. You could do something like this. Let me know if you guys can't see this. You could do something like that. You could do something like... You could do something like that. Yep. So really what you have is, and I had looked at this before, and I apologize if I didn't share this with you guys. It's wide, and then it gets a little more narrow in here. So maybe December, if this pattern did play out, maybe December pushes up here. Maybe we break it, get a back test down here, and then continued moves up. Remember, this, you know, I've just been here for so long to see this sort of stuff. This market is just so volatile. There's a reason that people get weeded out, right? There is a big reason why people don't do tremendously well in this market. The numbers would say so, is because the level of volatility in here, I mean, it really, guys, I've been speaking to this for a long time. Look at this gobbledygook in here I've been speaking to, right? I viewed all of this as consolidation. Now, I did not expect to see this break here. Okay, this was not the side I was leaning to, but I at least spoke to it. I said I saw two scenarios, right? Either we were going to continue to see price movements up, or we see some sort of fake out and then back up, right? If this is a fake out, if scenario 2 really does play out and we are getting the fake out, what I would expect to see, okay, it's sort of a fake out. We are in a technical bear flag. At some point here in the shorter term, okay, there's only a few days, 13 days left, I would expect some sort of sharp movement up, okay, and you begin to see this sort of thing, okay, the higher highs and higher lows. That's what we really ultimately need to see. Let's see what else we got here in the comments. Flare is going to be the biggest implosion the XRP ledger ever experiences. I don't know, man. I have no confidence in that team. I mean, they've what's the word I'm looking for? They've done a horrible job with the airdrop. Excuse after excuse after excuse, right? It's been a blunder. That's the word I was looking for. It's been a blunder of an airdrop. Let's see. Dawan. The one with a poll. Okay. I don't know what that username is supposed to mean, but that's an interesting username. I'm not even going to repeat that. In instance of something collapsing violently inward, the star undergoes a violent implosion caused by gravity's sudden failure, collapse, organization or systems global. Are we talking about? Are we talking about flare? Is that what we're talking about? Because that's what it sounds like you might be talking about. Yeah. So we have to keep an eye on this. We really need to invalidate this pattern. The other way you could still draw this valid pattern, I'll tell you when you would begin to invalidate it. The reality is, you could still draw a valid pattern like this. Okay, price is coming up. This is still a bear flag, okay, coming up here and hitting here. The way you invalidate it, you start getting higher highs. You break out of this area here. We start to get above. If we start to get above 18,900, that's when I'm starting to feel a lot more confident, okay? Now, I actually hadn't thought about that until I said that out loud to you guys, but looking at areas of support, and really this needs to be, I need to turn this red. I have not updated this. Unfortunately, I need to turn this red for resistance, not green for support, but when I'll start to feel a lot better, okay, a lot more positive, that we truly are going to see a fake out and sort of like a double-esque bottom, not a true technical double bottom, but something similar, it will be when we get above 19, when we get above and stay above. I don't mean a price wick, guys. Anytime I say to you get above, I'm not talking about a price wick. I've never ever indicated that before. Man, I can't get this damn line. All right, well, I will, there we go. I mean candle body closes, okay? I want to see sustained price action above 18,900. That's the level I would be looking for. I'm going to quickly hit on a few more charts, and then I'm going to turn it over to you guys in terms of any technical analysis questions that you have for me, any TA questions. I was planning on making this a little bit of a shorter live stream because I have a few things to get to before the end of the evening here. So one of which is to give my father a call, actually. So I just texted him when I was at the gym this morning, letting him know I was taking after him and getting a hard workout in this morning. Did a little chest, did a little abs, hit the lats a little bit, upper lower chest, and some good ab work. Been doing a lot of ab work for the past couple of years. My philosophy on ab work has changed a lot. Nothing's changed on the descending triangle. I've hit on that so many times. Bitcoin dominance, dollar, look, we already hit 105. We've already turned this now into resistance, and I'm still looking for us to come down to this level. Once around the 105 to 104 area breaks, I'm expecting us to have a strong impulse down towards around 101. This is what happens when you have a strong parabolic move up, right, guys? There are some levels of support, but not a lot. So when we start to break down, we really start to break down. Okay, so that's something to watch for. What else do I want to hit on here? The only other chart I'll hit on, interestingly enough, I haven't looked at this chart in a long time. I was looking at Litecoin. This is the Litecoin Bitcoin relativity chart. And what I'm noticing is we got back above this blue line, which was critical because this is a historical area of support that fell into resistance, and we've broken above. You can see this is not a falling wedge, okay? This is an equidistant in height here. This is a falling channel, okay? Falling channels, a little bit of chart education here for those unfamiliar. Falling channels like this are neither bullish nor bearish. They're sort of neutral, okay? So we'll have to see which way this kind of goes. I mean, there's no reason this can't just continue more down, or we could see some consolidation here and then a break up, right? Which is sort of the way I would personally lean, given my view of the market. The other interesting thing I'm noticing with Litecoin is, and again, I just happen to be looking around a chart that I haven't looked at in a while, right? This is the weekly on Bitcoin. All these price indicators are looking healthy, and I'm also noticing sort of this rounding bottom here, and the weekly starting to get above the 20-week simple moving average, which hasn't happened in quite some time. You can see when we were down here, every time here was a little impulse, got above the 20, kind of rode it a little, and then had a massive impulse. So starting to see some momentum build up in Litecoin. Again, you guys might look at this and say, why the hell are you looking at Litecoin? I'm trying to look at all sorts of, and I haven't had as much time today to look at charts, but I'm trying to look at as many different charts that can give me an indication of a holistic view of the market, right? Litecoin, as much as it hasn't been a stronger performer, it's also been a coin that's been around for a long time, has a lot of price history. There are things in this chart that can give me some clues in terms of where the market is currently at. So if we look at a 2-week chart, okay, we can see, let's get off this 200. We can see that we're starting to press up against this 20 again. And historically, when we get a candle body above the 20 here, you can see big move up. We got above here, kind of rode a little, big move up. We're starting to push up here. Can we get above here and see another massive move up? Well, just keep an eye. I mean, it's just another chart that lends itself to gaining a broader perspective on the entire industry and market in terms of where we're at. So let's see what we got here. Steady, the DXY. Yeah, I just hit on that, brother. Appreciate seeing you, by the way. I just hit on that. This is a parabola, and when these things break, you can see we have certain levels of support we're looking for here. But when we fall, I expect this thing to fall hard, okay? I'm not saying we're going to fall all the way back down to this 92.5 area that I have drawn, 92, 93, but it wouldn't surprise me. Maybe we that wouldn't surprise me one bit, actually, just kind of looking at the chart, that maybe we bottom out around 93, 92. But anyway, what I was saying, Steady, is once this 105 breaks, I suspect once the 105 to 104 region breaks, Okay, this region right in here, you can see we almost touched it with this wick. I expect once this definitively breaks, we're going to see a hard move to 101. That's my view of it. Because again, you're running up here in this parabola, you're not creating stair steps. It's the most unhealthy thing you can do from a fundamental perspective in terms of building a structure within the chart. As nice as it is, and that's why parabolas in any market or any chart is as exciting as it is in the short term to see Bitcoin go from 10,000 up to 60,000. You see what happens when it falls. There's not as many tree branches to grab onto when it falls off the tree, right? Not as many branches, so it tends to want to fall harder, closer to the ground, okay? What else do we have here? Total 2? Yeah, we can... Steady, clarify your question on dead cat bounce. You talking about DXY? What's your question on? Total 2? Yeah, we can definitely take a look at Total 2. I kept looking at Total and Total 3 with you. I mean, Total 2 is going to have a very similar setup. For those unfamiliar, you can see we also have sort of a falling wedge formation here. Let's just focus on price action, although the price indicators are starting to look pretty solid. Now, for those unfamiliar, the Total 2 is the total cryptocurrency market cap excluding Bitcoin. I'll get back to that I can comment real quick. Do I think that there's a dead cat bounce playing out in the DXY? I mean, if we look at price action, I mean, we have this. Now what we have, this is on a daily. Now we have a descending RSI. Yeah, there's no reason currently. Here's the thing, Steady. We had a massive, this is how I would interpret this chart, okay? We had a massive drop-off. Look at this, massive drop-off, right? So at some point, price is going to want to try to cling on to something and consolidate. But unless we get above this region, you're correct. It's just a dead cat bounce, and we're going to want to drop lower, okay? Because, again, all that momentum that we built up in the dollar for the better part of, I mean, a year. There's been no strong structure that was created, right? So when we fall, we're going to have these little bounces. What Steady is referring to as a dead cat bounce, but you're not going to have anything that's sustainable until you start to get above these prior areas of support that are now resistance. So Total 2, you can see, per J-Rose question here, you can see we're in a falling wedge. That's what I have drawn here, okay? The other thing to note here is we're still holding. Now, this is a double bottom, guys, okay? This right here is a double bottom. Why do I say it's a double bottom? Jesus. Damn it, TradingView. This is a double bottom because you can see the low here was at 428 billion and the low here is at 438 billion, okay? So a little higher here, okay? But this low is super close to this low. This right now is a double bottom. That's perfect. That's what we want to see. Now, this 2-week candlestick actually closes out this Sunday. So when I do the live stream, I'll be able to look at the 2-week charts with you guys in addition to the weekly. But right now, we have nothing concerning. We have a double bottom. We're sitting right on this green area of support. How did I draw it? Looks like I drew it right on the wick. I could have drawn this better, okay? God damn it. TradingView is really giving me an issue today. Not really, it's a zone, okay? You know that I like to draw it at the candle bodies. That's not magic. That's just what any chartist would do. There's more foundation within the chart. At the candle body, it's, it's rather intuitive, but the wick expresses volatility, right? So it's really this region in here, okay? It's really this region. So as long as, this is what I would say, as long as price... As long as price stays in this region, okay, we're good. If we start to break the bottom, then I'd get a little concerned, right? But you can see, based on where price is currently sitting at, to reach the bottom, we could still have a drop in Total 2 market cap of, roughly 16%, and I wouldn't be worried. Okay, we could still have a 16% breakdown. Now, if we start to go lower, this is where I would start to get concerned, but I don't see that happening. So I'm no reason for concern here. And like I was saying, the price indicators, stochastic RSI looks very healthy. We're above 20. We're at 45 over the 37. RSI is really neutral, even still a little oversold at 38. MACD is trying to flatten out here. It's trying to flatten and cross. Something to look for. Well, I mean, I'll get to your question, J. Rowe, in a second, but I want to respond to this. Loge Media. So, by the way, everyone new tuning in, I appreciate the thumbs up. It does help to support the channel a lot. So, Logan, you know, that's a hell of a name, you know, Logan. You know, I don't know if anybody here knows, but I'm a huge Wolverine fan, and I talked about getting a dog and naming him Logan. Hell, I've talked about having a son and naming him Logan. That didn't go over well with anyone I ever shared that with. How would you like to name our son Logan? The hell are you talking about? I'm not naming our son Logan. Okay, all right, well, never mind. Anyway, Logan's a hell of a name. It's a rugged, rough name. I like it. It's a real man's man name. A man's man name, you know? Yeah. Anyway, I don't know what the hell I'm saying anymore. 15.5 next. Okay, so let's say it's a hell of a name. I really do like it, I'm being honest with you. So let's say that you are correct. Okay, let's keep things in perspective. Okay? 15.5, which, by the way, just to let you guys know, that's not my downside target. My first downside target is not 15.5. My downside target, if we start to break below 15.56, is 13.8, okay? But what Logan is speaking to here, let's actually look on the 12-hour. He's talking about price revisiting 15.5 down here and dropping like 6 or 7%, okay? So my question for you as an investor is, do you, in your opinion, think it's smarter to accumulate a little bit at these levels, expecting potential downside, okay? Or do you want to wait for 6%? That's the question you have to ask yourself, and I'm not going to answer it for you, okay? What I'm trying to say is, my view is the downside risk relative, it is much riskier to play massive moves to the downside versus massive moves to the upside. There's a lot more room to the upside than there is to the downside based on my view. Let me say that again. There's a lot more room to the upside than there is to the downside based on everything I'm looking at. So if you want to wait for 6 or 7%, go for it. But I don't day trade. I'm not here to talk about day trading and taking out longs and leveraging and doing all that shit. I don't do that shit, okay? So, but you're entitled to have that view. I just wouldn't be sitting on my hands waiting for 6 or 7%. That's just me. So what do I think this means for, well, I've spoken to this in the past, J-Ro. What do I think this means for alts and Bitcoin? I would allow this chart to speak for me. I've spoken to this. We just had our 5th independent touch. I'm fully expecting Bitcoin dominance to break down. When it breaks down and we start hitting our all-time low here, I expect in this move, roughly, and I've spoken to this in a prior video, but this is my outlook, okay? Everything in my what have I been accumulating? Everything in my portfolio, J-Ro. If I tweet about something, you follow me on Twitter, brother. I speak to projects on here. Anyway, I've spoken to this in a prior video, but my general sense, my general view of things based on me just looking at the data, what's playing out right now, what's happened in the past, when we get a move down here to touch the region of historic lows in Bitcoin dominance, this move, Bitcoin and altcoins will be running, but altcoins will be running harder, in my opinion, than Bitcoin. I think that we'll get some sort of relief bounce, which will take us back up to this resistance. Why would we come back up here? Because oftentimes what happens is when you break a prior area of support, you like to back test it and form resistance then, okay? So as we come up here to this region here, Bitcoin and altcoins will perhaps be correcting, but altcoins will correct harder than Bitcoin. And then when we come down for the second time here, which is really our third touch, then we're going to break. Now, this is really the big run, okay, in my opinion. When we break this 35.4% area with conviction, we break this motherfucker right here and we start going down and you see Bitcoin dominance in the low 30s and the high 20s, That is in general, okay? And there's different movements in between. People like to parse my words and try to catch these little moves in between. No, just big picture, okay? We see this big drop in Bitcoin dominance. This is when everything's going to be running, but your altcoins are going to far outpace Bitcoin, okay? That is my view. That is my view of things. And again, I have a target of Bitcoin dominance somewhere in this 20% range, okay? I have a box between 20, I think the technical target's closer to 21.5 or 22, but I have a box between 20% and 23%, okay? So the midpoint's about 21.5%, okay? Yeah, and as far as accumulating, I mean, I speak to projects all the time that I have larger positions in, you know, the holy crypto trinity, obviously Bitcoin, and there's other projects that I speak to where I hold smaller positions. Reef Chain is something that I've been accumulating more and more. Cadena is something I took a small position in recently. I've spoken to Casper, I've spoken to Quant. If anything, I've kind of spoken to the fact that if anything, I need to probably condense my portfolio a little bit, which I have been doing because I had a lot of positions that were very small and I just started condensing things. So yeah. All right, I will take one more question if anyone has a chart question, else I am going to bounce because I have a lot of shit to get done, quite frankly. So, and I am early night person and early riser. So, like I said, I have a few more videos coming out. I'm going to be doing the live stream on Sunday and a couple other ideas I jotted down here I'm hoping to get out next week, so watch for those on the channel. Nope. Neffy, nothing has changed on Mana. Nothing's changed on Mana. I just charted that out recently on the last weekly close. I'm sure I'll speak to it this weekly close. I tend to hit on the Holy Crypto Trinity very, very frequently. Mana is one of those ones. Again, we were just talking about, I just did one, Logan, I just did one. I did one extensively on several live streams, so check out a couple of the nothing's changed. Nothing's changed on one. Nothing has me overly concerned. It's in accumulation with everything else. I've charted out one so many times on these live streams, so you can check out the prior live streams. But nothing has changed. Okay, nothing has changed on it though. Nothing concerning. Nothing super bullish. Nothing super bearish. It's just sort of churning with the rest of the market. As far as Mana, what I wanted to say on that, Mana is a great example. Same with Sandbox. We were just talking about parabolas. Okay, Mana had a huge parabolic run, so it's corrected a lot. Nothing there is surprising. Okay, nothing there is surprising one bit. All right, so nothing overly concerning. All right, I got one more I'm not familiar with, although I think I charted this one out before. We talked about it. All right, I'll take a look. I'll take a look, and then I'm going to bounce after this. So I am being asked to tweet. I'm being asked to chart MNW, and I know I charted this one before. I know I did. Isn't this, in fact, I think I have this on a watch list. Yeah, we already, in fact, I can show you. Yeah, I remember this one, MNW, EWT, and Albit. Yeah, I remember all these. All right. So it looks like I already charted this one out, my friend. And let's talk about an update on this chart. So you can see I have all these zones of resistance here, and we're really struggling to stay above there. This is on a weekly. Let's get off the price indicators. So what I would tell you about MNW, just going based off what I charted before, right now, we need to get up here. Once we get up here, let's have a conversation. That's at 1.7. We're sitting at $1.35. We're sitting at $1.35. We need to get up to $1.70. Once we get up to $1.70, let's have a conversation. I'll chart out one other area of resistance for you once we break there. I could see right there at $1.96. And hell, we'll do $1.96. So, and that's close enough to a psychological level of $2 that I would say like $2. So price right now sitting at 135. Let's get at and stay above $1.70. Once we're at $1.70 with conviction to stay above there, we're going to start slamming up against $1.96, $2. That's what I would look for. So hopefully you found that helpful. That's all I got, guys. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Make sure to share this content with at least one person. Appreciate the thumbs up, the comments, bell icon for notifications on the channel. And until next time, spread awareness and carry the education forward. Take care, guys.